Okay, so we are back. We are looking into Hermes, whatever you want to call it, the agent, the AI agent, and how we're just doing some research. Nate's awesome the way he speaks and he puts it down. So let's see how he goes about teaching this.
Recipe, and then you're going to follow that recipe to a T.
So there are 5 pillars, he says. Pillar number 1 is memory, the personal MD as well as the memory MD. And now we're in pillar 2, which is the skills. He's discussing skills. Yeah, there we go.
Of your sessions into a SQLite database, and it can go search through those. And do not store secrets or temporary task status. So we'll talk about API keys and the way that you should be putting them into your Hermes agent responsibly once we get into the setup. So that is the first pillar, memory. The second pillar we have here is skills. So skills are procedural memory, reusable playbooks for how to do a task well. If you guys have already been working.
Interesting. They're still memory, except that they're procedural memory. Good one. I like that. See the way he puts it.
With Codex or Claude Code or all these other things, you probably understand skills, but I'll give you the real quick lowdown. Basically, think of a skill as a recipe. Someone asks you, hey, can you make me some chocolate chip pancakes? You want to pull up a recipe, and then you're going to follow that recipe to a T. And that's how your pancakes turn out the same and yummy every time. Otherwise, if you were just going off of memory of how to make the chocolate chip pancakes, sometimes they might be a little more burnt than the other times. Sometimes they would have less chocolate chips than other times. You just want them to be consistently done in the same way. And that is your skill or your recipe.
I just realized maybe there was no audio here.
So use it for X, Y, and Z. And that's basically a concept called progressive disclosure, which helps make sure that you're not loading full skills, full context bloat into a session if you don't actually need to use that skill. So Hermes will understand pancakes. Sometimes they might be a little more burnt than the other times. Sometimes they would have less chocolate chips than other times. You just want them to be consistently done in the same way. And that is your skill or your recipe. So all of these skills are in a file called skill.md. They have a YAML front matter, which is basically just like a little front matter that tells the
YAML front matter. That's interesting.
Agent, hey, this skill does this, so use it for X, Y, and Z. And that's basically a concept called progressive disclosure, which helps make sure that you're not loading full skills, full context bloat into a session if you don't actually need to use that skill. So Hermes will understand the use case for the skill. It will then invoke the skill and read it, and then it will ship that information into the.
Yeah, that's just to preserve tokens. Interesting concept, of course.
Session, and then invoke the skill and do what you need. And what's cool about the Hermes agent is that if you're doing things frequently, if you forget, hey, let's build a skill out of this, it will analyze conversations, it will analyze your workflow, and it will turn things into skills. And then, of course, as you use skills more and more, if you're giving feedback, it's going to update those skills as well. As you can see, these Excalibur diagrams keep messing up right here, which is basically just the beginner nuance. So memory equals what to remember, skill equals how to do it again. Hermes can create or patch skills after real work. So super cool. And of course, there's a skills hub. So any skills you've already built can be used in Hermes, or you can go to the skills hub and you can see that there's over 520 community skills. There's different categories. So you can definitely search through here to see what you can add to your Hermes to make it even more powerful. It looks like there's actually 16 right here that are Anthropic official skills. We have canvas design, front-end design. We have a skill creator skill. So you can pull all of these into your Hermes agent super, super easily. You just have to basically run this command, or you could drop in this URL to your Hermes agent and say, hey, install this skill right now. All right, so that's pillar 2. Pillar 3 is the soul. Now, soul MD basically shapes the assistant. This shapes your Hermes agent. So that if you have 6 different Hermes agents, they all have basically a different vibe. Some can be concise, some can be rude, some can be, I don't know. But anyways, the soul.md is another markdown file that gets put into the context of the agent. And now it's able to just have a bit of a personality. So if you're also letting other people interact with your Hermes, they will feel the personality. If your Hermes is, commenting on YouTube videos like mine, there will be some sort of personality. The one in my YouTube comments, I told it to be like very sarcastic, but not rude. And by the way, guys, it's not super, super important that you need to know what a skill file looks like or know exactly what a markdown file looks like, but don't get intimidated. Here is a skill. So this is skill.md. This one's called generate image. So everything in between these 2 lines up here, that is the YAML front matter that I was talking about. This is what your agent reads in order to understand, okay, should I use this skill or not? If it then decides, yes, I should use this skill, then it's going to read all of this other stuff, which is just markdown. And markdown just basically means that it's using headers and bullets, and it's just a way for agents to read structure within a block of text. Like this means bold. Anyways, that's what a markdown file is, and that's what a skill file looks like. So a soul file would look like that, but there wouldn't be that YAML front matter. But as you might have guessed, the soul file will also evolve over time based on the feedback that you're giving your Hermes. So what is pillar number 4? This is where it gets super cool. And this is one of the main value props for me over something like Claude Code, is the fact that I can just say, hey, spin up a cron job to do this at this time, and it just does it. Claude Code, obviously you have your routines, you have your loops, but that usually requires you to leave some sort of infrastructure on, unless you're using like that new cloud routine, but you're only limited to 15 of those, at least on the max plan, 15 of those a day. So once again, Hermes doesn't replace Cloud Code for me, but it's kind of my on the go, spin up things really quick. And that's why I love it. So crons turn Hermes from reactive into a proactive scheduled automation. And you're still getting that full agentic loop if you want it. So you can say in natural language, hey, every morning at 6 a.m., I want you to do X, Y, and Z. It will go ahead and use a skill and use its tools to create that cron job. And then when that time hits, it will basically invoke like a fresh isolated session. It doesn't inherit any of the context that you're currently having that conversation about. And then it will just run that skill. After that happens, it will send that result back to the original chat, and it will maybe update any local files or do whatever it needs to do based on the skill requirements. So some useful pieces of advice down here: context underscore from is to pass one job output into another. Workdir is work directory, and it runs tools from a project folder.
Context from. Pass one job output into another. Oh, that's how you create chains and sub-agents. So essentially, one can do a research and just teach it how to find the good content, and then once it finds its stuff, then context from, which means pass it to the next.
And then you can do this flag for no agent.
Run tools from a project folder. Script only, no LLM.
Which is just a script. So, hey, I just want you to run this Python script. I don't want the agentic harness loop inside of that. I just want the script to be ran. So if you think back to the WAT framework, workflow, agent, tools, you basically just be deploying the workflow on something like modal. You're not deploying the agent as well. So safety nuance, cron sessions cannot recursively create more cron jobs. So the prompts need to be self-contained. And if any of this is starting to feel a little bit overwhelming, I just want you to understand this terminology so that when we hop into the setup and the onboarding, it all clicks a little bit better. So just stick with me. All right, and then the last pillar here is the self-improving loop. Hermes improves when useful experience gets persisted as memory, skills, and searchable history. So if you think about the loop like this, you do the work, the agent learns. You save things to memory or to agents.md or to user.md. And then you turn those repeatable steps into skills or your preferences into more memory. And then the agent's able to search past sessions when old context matters. And then you basically just go in that loop over and over. So the more you use your Hermes agent, the better it's going to get and the more it's going to understand you. So the nuance here is that automatic does not mean magic. The loop works best when the user corrects Hermes, asks it to save things to memory, and lets it create and update skills after you've done some complex work. And there is one more kind of honorable mention, which is the context file. So agents.md, if you're using Codex, you know what that is. If you're using Cloud Code, this is the Claude.md, which is kind of just like the overall project goal, kind of like the structure of the project. So this is something that you're more so going to use if you're like coding in different projects with Hermes. And I would say more so if you're in like
Okay. Let's see. I don't know if this screen is Hermes AI. This is this thing. Agent that grows with you. Stop sharing. Let's bring a different share on as we're gonna be. Tell me, with this Hermes agent, what are the So I wanted to ask a question. I completely forgot it.
like the terminal using Hermes. In today's video, I'm not going to focus too hard on the terminal. I am going to talk about the difference between using it in the terminal or using it through Telegram or whatever other channel you use. But this is not going to be a deep dive on Hermes in the terminal because once again, any terminal style work that I'd be doing, I would just be doing that in Cloud Code. That's the way that my workflow currently exists. hopefully you guys aren't too bored yet. Let's actually go ahead and get your guys' hands on. I am going to say before we jump into this, all of this video, I'm going to have broken down into a resource guide, which might even be helpful for you to just give your Hermes agent the document and say, hey, help me get all this set up. But if you want to access that free resource guide that breaks down everything that we're going to talk about today, that will be my free school community. The link for that is down in the description. You'll go into here, you'll click on Classroom, you'll click on all YouTube resources, and you'll be able to find every doc, skill, GitHub repo, everything I've ever dropped for free on YouTube right in there. Okay, so now let's get into the setup of Hermes agent. All right, so the way that we're going to be doing this is on a VPS, which stands for a virtual private server. Now I'm going to be using Hostinger for my Hermes agent. I have been using Hostinger for hosting N8N and for OpenClaw and for Cloud Code. So this is my VPS provider of choice. There's a link in the description if you guys want to go here. You can see there's also basically like a one-click install for Hermes agent when you spin up one of these VPS. So very, very cool. Now, the first thing you have to do is choose the plan. So on here, you can see KVM 1, 2, 4, or 8. I'm just going to go ahead and start with 2 for now. This basically just changes like how much CPU and RAM you have and your bandwidth in your server. So you could definitely start on 1. And if you need to just scale up, you can scale up later. But I'm just going to go ahead and pick KVM 2. And then I'm just going to go ahead and click on deploy. So you have to choose your period. So 24 months, 12 months, or 1 month. I think that you should just probably go for the annual at least because you're going to save more money. But also, you pay about $100 and then you have this just set up forever. And you can also, or for a year, I guess, but you can also deploy multiple different Hermes agents or even multiple OpenClaws and Cloud Codes on your VPS as long as you can support the RAM and the CPU. And if you choose an annual plan, so 12 months or 24, you can use code NateHerc and you can save an additional 10% on that plan. So you can see right here, it says Hermes agent auto deploys with your VPS. You can also get daily auto backups, and then you're going to choose your server location. And then once you've made your payment, you just have to go ahead and get started with setting up your VPS. So you'll choose your server location, click on next. This is where you can see the actual OS that you want to use. So I'm going to do Ubuntu and I'm going to do 24.04 LTS. What else you can see here is that there's tons of different apps that you could also deploy, N8N, NemoClaw, and this is where you could come in here and you could search Hermes agent as well. And if you do want to do the one-click install, then go ahead and do Hermes agent. But if you want to do it on the root of your VPS, then just stick with me here. I'm going to do a breakdown of the differences there in just like a minute. So if you want to wait until you see that, just wait for a sec. So you're gonna have to go ahead and create a root password. I'm gonna go ahead and click next. If you forget that later, you can obviously just regenerate it. So it's not a huge deal, but obviously you probably wanna remember that. You can add a malware scanner for free. So I'll just check that box and hit finish setup. And now this will take just a couple minutes to actually spin up your VPS. So while we're waiting for that, let me talk about the difference between setting it up kind of with a one click or setting it up directly at the root of your VPS. Okay, so a VPS is basically just a computer in the cloud that you will be renting from Hostinger. You will get an IP address and you will get a password in order to basically SSH in, which means you were just like getting into that virtual private computer so that you can manage the files and install things, stuff like that. So if you install Hermes directly on the VPS, it will be at the root level. And if you install it using the one-click Docker image, it will be in a containerized Docker environment within your VPS. So I know that might make like no sense at all, but here's a quick visual. Your VPS has data, it has like services, it has other files, and then you can also put the Hermes agent right there. Or you could have all of your files and stuff, locked into the root of your VPS, and then you can spin up an individual container for all of your different Hermes agents or OpenClaw agents within the actual different Docker containers. So for the sake of the video, I'm going to be doing the Docker container approach because it's just a one-click install and it's much simpler, but even the root VPS is very, very simple. Now, here's something that I am very, very strong on that some people might disagree with me and think that it's over-engineering, but I think it's like, why would you not do this? For all of my VPS agents, I have created my own Cloud Code project to help me manage them. So right here, you can see this is called Upit Agents. If I click on VPS Agents, you can see that I have my Bull, which is my trading bot. I have my main Hermes, I have my Upit OS, and I have Klaus, which was like my main personal assistant. And so for each of these, I can see my passwords and my environment variables, and I can see, like what's the IP address of this VPS and how do we have this set up in the Docker or at the root. And it has information about security and integrations. And basically now I have one clean place to manage all of my different agents because I've got a lot of different VPSs running and I don't want to forget my passwords and I don't want to forget like which agent is on which server. So I just have this project set up. So I would definitely recommend you guys do this. And I'm actually going to do this live with you guys here to show you what I mean. So all right, we're going to go ahead and set up a new VPS and we're going to do a new Hermes agent. So in the VPS_agents folder, create a new subfolder called YouTube Hermes. And then we're going to go ahead and set up like the passwords and the configuration stuff, just so that you can help me make sure we maintain this project well. Now, the reason I like to do this is because do you think that I like understanding VPSs and terminal commands and CLIs? Not at all. And I'm not very good at it. So who's better at that than me? Hermes agent and Cloud Code. And sometimes if you're running random commands and you don't know what you're doing, your Hermes agent might like shut down. And now I have Cloud Code to help me boot it back up if I need to. And this may sound scary and overwhelming, but trust me, it is so, so simple. This is just a good best practice to keep yourself organized. Okay, so switching back over to our Hostinger dashboard, you can now see that we have our VPS ready. So if I click on Manage VPS, this opens up our main dashboard. A couple things to look at. So first of all, we have our root access. This is what we can actually give to Cloud Code. So if it needs to root into our VPS and like look at our passwords or help us fix things, it can do so. It would just need the password as well. So here's where you can change that root password. Down here, you can see your current plan. You can see when it expires. You can see your analytics, and server data will pop up and it will show you if you need to like upgrade to a higher plan. And also you can see on this left-hand side, these are all the different servers that I've got running, which is why I want a Cloud Code project to help me keep that organized. So the other thing you can do is you can change the host name. If you come into here, you just have to have it end in a dot something. So if I just do YouTube Hermes and then I do dot VPS, I should be able to get that to go through. And now this host name in my dashboard will change to that. So I can just keep myself a little bit more organized. Okay, so the two methods, right? If you want to do this at the root, you would basically just open up a terminal, or Hostinger gives you a terminal right here, which means I click on this button. This opens up a terminal that's already SSH'd into our project. You can see it's root at YouTube-Hermes. And this is where you would just go ahead and go to Hermes. and you would just run the install command. So you would come down here and you would install with this one line command, and then you'd go ahead and do Hermes setup and start configuring your Hermes agent. But like I told you guys today, what we're going to do is the one-click install. So we would go over to our Docker manager, and this is where we go ahead and click install. And remember how we have our main server, but if we wanted to spin up a bunch of different Docker containers inside of this server, we could do so. And that's how you could keep like different Hermes agents in here and kind of keep them separate. Okay, well, this is going to take 10 minutes. I doubt it. Okay, yeah, it just finished up. So I'm going to click compose. I'm going to go to one-click deploy. And then when this loads up, this is where I will search for Hermes, and I will click on select. Now, here's where you have to set an admin username and an admin password for your Hermes agent. I'm just going to leave this as default. I'm going to copy this password. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my Cloud Code project, and I'm going to save the admin password and username into this new one. So right here, you can see it made this one called YouTube-Hermes. And what I want to do is I'm going to add a new file in here, call this one the .env. And then in this .env, I'm basically just going to do admin underscore username equals, and then admin underscore password.
Hello, Ashley. Did you hear me? Yes, my name is David. Yes. I do front reception. No. Uh, I'm the reception front manager. Yes. Oh my God. Yeah, that's fine. David is fine. Yes, address it to me. Yes, microneedling. Yeah, we do all of those. Yes. Uh, yes. 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 Okay, thank you. Hello. Yes, this is Michael. My name is Michael. Yes. Yes. Uh, me. Yes, to me is okay. You could ship it to me. Yeah, you could send it to myself. The owner. I'm the owner. Yes, all of them. Yes. No. Yes. Yes. I already said yes. Yes. Thank you. Wow. That was today's learning session.